Good afternoon, everybody. This is the notes from November 18th, 2019. So we are trying to determine the slope of a line connected between two coordinate points, which are also ordered pairs. So you have your ordered pair x comma y and another x comma y. Now, we learned from Friday, the way you determine the slope, you first measure the rise, being how high you go, and we usually start from the left, go to the right, along with how far down, or how far to the left or right, usually to the right, because we read from left to right. So usually we take the point on the left, determine if it's a rise by going up, or if it was a drop by going down, and then the run is how far to the right, from the point on the left to the point on the right. So for this problem, we had -4, 5 and +8, 7. Those are our 2 points in question. So we first look at the y coordinates. So your y's being +5, +7. So what we first do is take the difference. So 5 minus 7, which is -2. And then we divide it by the difference of your x's. So we have -4, so include your negative sign, minus 8. 8 is positive, so we're just replacing the second x value with 8. So then we have -4 minus 8, which is also -4 plus 8, -8. And as a result, you get -12. But notice how -2 divided by -12 simplifies as not only a negative, but more a positive fraction, because what happens when we divide two negatives? The result is positive. And we will leave it as a fraction because when we divide both numerator and denominator, in this case by -2, so we're going to divide both values by -2. The result, -2 divided by -2, +1. -12 divided by -2, +6. And this is your slope, which we will designate the variable m for our slope. So m is our slope. And this is our general formula for the slope, which is your rise over run. And we're going to highlight this, especially for anybody who was absent the last couple of days of school. There was at least either today or today and Friday. All right. So next section, given 2 points, you're going to first determine your y values. So for this first problem, our 2 y values are 7 and -1. But notice how I put this -1 after the minus sign in parentheses, because you're really subtracting a negative. So 7 minus -1 is the same as minus negative is a positive, so 7 minus -1 really becomes 7 plus 1, while your x is -3 minus 1. And just like before, you're really adding two negative numbers, -3 plus -1, which gives you a value of -4. Now, 8 divided by -4 simplifies as -2. And you will need to simplify your fractions either into lowest terms or whole numbers. Now for part B, x and y, x is -3, 4, y is 0, 4. So our y's, they're both 4. So 4 minus 4 is 0. And then for your x's, -3 minus 0, this minus 0 part just goes away. So you're left with 0 and -3. However, 0 divided by any number is 0. And as a result, if your slope is 0, then you have a horizontal line. So basically, your slope If it's 0, horizontal line. And in this case, if we were to draw a graph, just going to give you a rough idea. So that's your x. So then we go up 1, 2, 3. Oops, it's not drawn to scale. So this is your y-axis. So this is y equals 4. So our horizontal line is going to look like this. Y equals 4. And you have 2 particular points. 0, 4, which is here. And then negative 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So we would be, let's say, here. So this is what our line y equals positive 4 will look like. Now for part C, again, take your y's. So 5 minus 1, which is 4. And then negative 6 minus 3. So bring down negative 6 minus 3 is negative 9. Now 4 over negative 9, since we can't simplify that fraction, this is our slope. We just stop here. Example D. This one's a little different than the other 3. Mainly because notice our x values are the same. Since we have the same x values, 5 and minus 5, that result is 0. Now, we are never allowed to have zeros in the denominator. Real quick, going to the numerator, we have that 7 minus negative 2. Again, put parentheses around the negative 2 because some of us might see, oh, 7 minus 2. Since this is already negative, we only have to put the negative one time. You need the double negative. And in this case, that should have been positive 9. 7 minus 2 is positive 9. But as a result, most important thing is if you have a 0 in the denominator, it's automatically an undefined slope. Because in the end, our graph will look something like this. So this is our x-axis, y-axis, and at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So x is 5 in both cases. This is what our graph would look like. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. X equals positive 5. So graphically, that's what the graph of this line would look like. You're going to have a vertical line up and down. So talking about vertical and horizontal lines, horizontal line, your y coordinates are the same. So no matter what your x value is, the y's stay the same. So in the first case, we have all the y's are 4. So no matter what your x coordinate is, plot your points, we see, oh, the line is such that when the line crosses the y-axis, so remember this is your y, this is your x, crosses at y equals 4. So this is not only the graph of this particular line, that's the y equals 4 is also your y-intercept. Similarly, again, you have a horizontal line where all the y values are negative 3. So our horizontal line is y equals negative 3. And again, your slope is 0 for a horizontal line. So slope is 0. Equation describes the y values for all ordered pairs in a graph. Y equals b, where b is your y-intercept. So anytime you see y equals some number, I mean, your graph crosses the y-axis. So the graph of the line crosses the y-axis at the value b. So in this case, example on the left, y equals 4. Example on the right, y equals -3, because that is where a line in those two respective cases crosses y-axis. Vertical lines, similar to the horizontal. Your x's, in this case, your x values are all -2 for the graph on the left-hand side, and your x values +3 on the right. Therefore, since we cross the x-axis, we would say x equals, so example on the left, -2. So our line is at x equals -2. And second example, x-axis, our line, vertical line, crosses the x-axis at x equals 3. So those are our respective equations. Again, label your axes. So vertical lines, slopes undefined. X values are the same for each and every ordered pair in your graph. X equals A, which is your value, is your x-intercept. Now at the bottom, well, the second graph, that's on your notes. I do apologize, it did not show up on our notes here. But basically, you had vertical line, so similar to the other two graphs. You had a vertical line, then this is your y-axis, x-axis. So is that one? It's -3. That's what your line looked like. And then, of course, oops, line goes up and down. That's what this graph looked like. And again, you have an undefined slope because of the vertical line. So, whereas option A, y equals 5, because a horizontal line crosses a y-axis at y equals 5. And for C, x is 1. A vertical line crosses x-axis at x equals 1. So horizontal line, your slope is 0. Vertical line, slope is undefined. That's A, B, C in a nutshell. D, ordered pairs make a horizontal and vertical line. Since the y values are the same, you're going to have a slope of 0. You will have a horizontal line. And then for E, you look at where x is -2. So it was -2 comma 4, -2 comma 5, -2 comma -1. So in this case, you have the same x values, which means you have a vertical line, which also means an undefined slope. Now the last one, this is your homework. So problems 1 through 6, you do the rise over run, which was from Friday's notes. 7 through 18, you use the formula for today. So we did a couple examples. Well, I'm illustrating a couple examples here. So for example, for 1, your slope, so we read from left to right, same thing with the points, go from point A to point B. So for your first example, we first went 1, 2, 3, 4, up, and then 1, 2, 3 to the right. So our slope is 4 over 3. To the second example, we went 6 down. So that's why we put -6. So if we go up, down, up from top to bottom, it's negative. And then we go to the right, 1, 2, 3 spots. So our slope is -6 divided by +3, and your result is -2. Now, if you're given x and y coordinates, you first, remember your x's, subtract them in order, and your y's, again, subtract them in order. Now beware, I want to do one other example, especially when you have negatives. So an example, well, let me get back to this one first, I'm sorry. What happens when we have -2 divided by 3, -3? In the end, your slope actually becomes 2/3 because the negatives knock each other out, and you're left with +2 over +3, or 2/3. Now, 15, I want to let everybody in on this one too, because this is a case where you're going to have at least a negative minus another negative number. So for 15, set up a fraction bar. So with the y's aren't too bad, because you have -8 minus 0. And then you have, in order, -4. But then you have a minus. You still have to do minus another -2. Minus negative really becomes, minus negative becomes a positive. So really, in the end, you wind up with -4 plus 2. But then your -8 minus 0 is still -8 minus 0. That really does not change. So your slope for this problem, I know it's a couple steps, but -8 minus 0, that's -8 over -4 plus 2, which is -2. Oops. However, what happens when we divide two negatives? Negative divided by negative really becomes positive. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. So this example, the reason why we did it is mainly for your x's. When you subtract the second value, if your second value is negative, that minus negative really becomes a plus sign. And then from there, you cross out the boxes that you see for each slope. Whichever boxes remain, it's one letter per box. Thank you, and I will see you all tomorrow.